البلاد قد عظمت فللأمجاد بانيها، ومن يسعى إلى العليا سيدركها بما فيها، ويبني مجده جذلا فروح الفذ يعليها، ليصبح همة تروي عن العليا مغانيها.
In the year of Uganda's independence, the Muslim fraternity celebrated a great achievement, the formation of the Uganda Muslim Students Association. One may wonder, why was it necessary to form an association for the Muslim students in the country? Going back some years and reflecting on the early Muslim experience in Uganda, one realizes that despite the Arabs having come first, they came as Muslim traders, and on top of that, Islam spread because it was their way of life that people loved and adopted. But rather, there was no deliberate effort to teach Islam. Henceforth, mostly in those early years, the recitation of the Quran is what most Ugandans learnt, and a few Islamic values and principles. Even the language that is key to the understanding of Islam, Arabic, was not taught to the Ugandans. 3 decades later, when the Christian missionaries came to Uganda, they came with an organized system of formal education, as it was back home in Britain. This challenged the Muslims who were present and had been around for some time, because their system or their faith was not as organized. When the missionaries set up the schools and the system of education in Uganda became defined by that missionary schools, the Muslims experienced a gap as they were left behind, simply because to attain this education in the missionary schools, you had to have a change of faith. And yet the Muslims were well content with practicing Islam. And so naturally, it became a move of self-defense, denying themselves the chance to go to school so that they keep their faith that they loved so dearly. Years later, with very many different efforts, the Muslims had a chance through the setting up of the UMEA schools, the Uganda Muslim Education Association, an effort that set up a number of schools around the country. But to the dismay of the proprietors of this effort, initially, the majority of the people that actually enrolled in these schools were not Muslims, because there was still a fear for secular education, as we call it these days. As the years advanced and Muslims had started gaining in secular education, another gap was realized. The fact that there was still a lag in the number of Muslims that were attaining this education. And therefore, those that had had the privilege of attending high quality schools and attaining this education thought it fit to unite the Muslim students so as to be able to promote Muslim education in Uganda. Now, you'll realize that from what I have said so far, every time we talk about education, particularly in Uganda, most times the listeners, anyone listening, will quickly understand the Western education. But is it the only education that used to exist back then? The Muslims in their earlier days had the Quran education, but however, because that is not part of what forms the system that governs our country, then it is usually thought of as less important, because one that attains only that education cannot get a say in majority of the policies or majority of the sectors in the country. And this is simply because having been colonized by Britain and having taken up the colonial system that was left to us, then it is the Western education that favors any success in this system. So in 1962, the formation of the Uganda Muslim Student Association was a very big achievement because it was a chance for the Muslims to rise up from the shadows where they were through the promotion of Muslim education in the country. Several years later, about a decade later, when Idi Amin came to power as president, he was a man of great patriotism and great love for the Ummah. And his effort to unite the Muslims in Uganda under one umbrella saw him abolish the presence of any other associations or organizations. And therefore, the Uganda Muslim Student Association actually went into exile because Idi Amin Dada's goal was to unite all the Muslims in the country under one umbrella, the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. When the association went into exile, the efforts to promote Muslim education also retarded, and therefore there was a need for these efforts to be revived. And having witnessed and recalling the history of the Muslim education that was largely characterized by few opportunities and the access to education meaning a change of faith, there were several people that rose up in the 1980s to come and promote the revival of the association. We pay tribute to very great men like Badru Sebyala, Haji Ibrahim Matovu, amongst others who came up to revive the association in the early 1980s. Several other efforts were made over the years, with the Liberation War also halting the possibility of the full revival of the association. In 1995, the association was fully revived under efforts of Haj Khalisa Karim and a very big team that he worked with. A constitution was drafted and this was adopted, and since then the Muslim Student Association of Uganda has existed. This is the new name upon revival of the Uganda Muslim Student Association. The name was changed to the Muslim Student Association of Uganda, and up to now, 60 years from the inception of the Uganda Muslim Student Association, this association continues to see that it makes efforts to achieve a Uganda in which the Muslim students population is knowledgeable, responsible and responsive, but also contributes to the progress of the Muslim community in Uganda and the world at large. So what does the Muslim Student Association of Uganda do, and why is it important to know about the activities of the Muslim Student Association of Uganda? First and foremost, our vision is to become a knowledgeable, responsible and responsive Muslim students population, practicing Islam in total, participating in and contributing to the progress of the Muslim Ummah in Uganda and the world at large. And how we achieve this is through the mobilization and sensitization of the Muslim students to see that they lead an Islamic life, that they participate in and contribute towards the programs that are aimed at moving the community forward. In so doing, we are able to promote Muslim education in the country, but also unite the Muslim students under one umbrella. MSAU, which is the acronym for the Muslim Students Association of Uganda, takes on all levels of education, uniting the students right from the primary, secondary and tertiary levels. Today, MUSAU seeks to become a vibrant association. The efforts of MUSAU over the years are a full tale that would need a lot of time to be told. But it is worth noting that the presence of Muslim students' associations in schools at secondary level and at tertiary level is one of the biggest efforts of the association. And these efforts, and the efforts of MUSAU at large, cannot be mentioned without paying due tribute to one of the associations that serves under MUSAU that really had a big contribution, especially during the times of great men like Professor Abbas Chiyimba and Dr. Ahmad Sengendo, while they were students at Makerere University, who undertook the task upon themselves on joining the Muslim students movement that they found to take it to greater heights so as to make a name internationally and be recognized even in the national scene. Today, it is relevant for all of us to be involved in the activities of MUSAU because they no longer apply to students alone. Each of us, parents, students, teachers, Muslim leaders, we are all stakeholders in the activities of MUSAU. Because, as we're all aware, seeking knowledge is akin to every Muslim man and woman. It is a duty upon us. And therefore, as students, as the students' fraternity, we owe our nation and our community, the Muslim community, a great deal. And we can only achieve this if we unite efforts to see that we are able to close the gaps that once existed in the Muslim education of Uganda. One of the great effects that happened due to the lag of the Muslim education in Uganda is the fact that today we have social classes as the Muslims. And these social classes arise from that level of education. There is a group of the Muslims that have attained secular education and advanced in it so much so that they are very good at what they do, but most times have little of the Islamic knowledge. And there's a group of those that have attained a lot of the theological knowledge, and they have grown to become sheikhs and imams at different levels, but maybe they had very little or nothing of the secular knowledge. And there is a third group that has come up today that has attained a bit of both the theological and the secular knowledge. And the last group, which is the fourth group and the most demanding of them all, is one that has neither of the two. So to bridge this gap, we need to become Muslims that are well balanced. And this is one of the major efforts of the Muslim Students Association of Uganda. Through one of our programs, that is the Tarbiyah program, a program for development. It is a program for nurturing Muslim students at secondary schools and at tertiary institutions to learn basics of Islam, regardless of whether or not they have ever attained Islamic knowledge. It is a program that enhances the Muslim students in leadership and management skills, where we organize training courses in leadership. It is a program that appreciates the fact that no man is an island, and therefore it deals with the social aspects of life for a Muslim, how one relates with others, and how one forms a family, and how the family unit becomes a key factor to the development of the community at large. The Tarbiyah program is a program that also pays attention to the fact that any Muslim, to benefit the religion of Islam and to benefit themselves, needs to be economically empowered. And therefore, we train not only the Muslim students in leadership and management skills, we not only teach them about the need to observe their due diligence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to obey His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but we also guide them in their career paths. These are some of the programs of the Muslim Students Association of Uganda, and it's at this point that we urge every individual, every Muslim in this country to be part of our programs, because this is a foundation for the development of our community, for the forward movement of the community. We are always the torchbearers. We do the best possible in a voluntary manner, and we never give up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قد عظمت فللأمجاد بانيها ومن يسعى إلى العليا سيدركها بما فيها ويبني مجده جذلا فروح الفذ يعليها ليصبح همة تروي عن العليا مغانيها.